I have to use your phone. Okay. You want my no. What do you want my phone? I'll give you my. It's not my. Remember, yeah, I know. This is good life. So it's taking the global mic. So it takes all noise. Good. Oh, yes, of course. God was really fine.
Assalamu alaikum once again. Do we have Mr. Kanyi with us, please? Mr. Kanyi?
He's with us, yes.
Mr. Kanyi is available, right?
Yes.
Okay, I think we can start now. Mr. Kanyi, am I audible, please?
Yes, Abdul Karim, you are.
Okay. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you, brother.
Okay. Good afternoon from the Gambia and good evening from those in India. I welcome you all to this important webinar, and my name is Abdul Karim Sise. I am serving as the Assistant Academic Secretary for the 8th Executive Council of the Association of Gambian Students in India. Today, the platform, I have here Mrs. Fatmata Bite as my co-host and Mr. Muhammed Kanyi as our guest speaker. Mr. Kanyi is the founder and the lead trainer of Speakers Corner, the Gambia. Mr. Kanyi, you are welcome to the webinar, and we really appreciate your time, considering your busy schedule and the time difference in the Gambia, but you still managed to join us here today. I remember when we were drafting our action plan, and we reached to the point that we have to talk about who will be our first invitee for our webinar. And I said, Muhammed Kanyi, and they were like, who is Muhammed Kanyi? I said, don't worry. If Muhammed Kanyi is around, you will know. And to my surprise, when we released the flyers, everybody was saying we have to attend this webinar. We have to attend this webinar. So we really appreciate your time, and we are hoping for a good and wonderful discussion ahead. To start with the agenda for today, we usually do it as the GAMIND style. We will take 2-3 minutes of our time to pray in our various ways. So let's take this minute to pray in our various ways. Amen. Thank you so very much. I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all prayers. Now, going by the agenda, I would like to give an overall review of the agenda for today. And the agenda for today's webinar is going to be opening prayers, which we just concluded. And next on the agenda, we are going to have and welcome and opening remarks given by our president, who is Mr. Ibrahim Ambo, and followed by my co-host, who will give us a brief introduction or a biography of Mr. Kanyi here. We know that the biography we prepared, we are going to present here is more than what Mr. Kanyi have in achievement. But to make it short, we will just try to give 2 or 3 points of who Mr. Kanyi is. After that, we will come into the theme for the day, which is career after graduation, particularly talking about how we are going to overcome barriers to success in the Gambia upon graduating. After that, we are going to have a 15 minutes to 20 minutes questioning and answering sessions where chances will be given to all the audience. If you have a question, you can just raise your hand and we will allow you to come in and ask your questions to our Mr. Kanyi. And After that, we are going to have the closing remarks, which will be given by our able boss, our assistant, our academic secretary, which is Khadijatu. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Mbow to give an opening remarks for the day.
Greetings, everyone. Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
All right. Thank you so very much, my boss, Mr. Sise, Madam Bite, and my able boss, Mr. Kanyi. Greetings to you, my boss. And thank you so very much for honoring our invitation. And thanks to my academics department for coming up with such a wonderful topic and inviting.
Oh, Mr. Mbow is gone. Mr. Mbow. Oh. Mr. Mbow.
It might be some technical issues.
I was facing some technical issues. My laptop just.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can proceed.
So I will continue with this one with my phone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, as I was saying, it is indeed a great pleasure to have you all here. I would like to take this opportunity to warmly welcome our esteemed guest, Mr. Muhammed Kanyi, as well as all participants. This webinar marks the first event organized by the 8th Executive Council, and we are delighted to have such an enthusiastic turnout. Yeah. Today, we will be discussing a topic of significant importance, which is career after graduation, how to break barriers to success in the Gambia. We all recognize the education serves as preparation for the future, equipping us not only to serve our country, but also to advance our personal goals. Choosing a career is one of the most important decisions we make, as it greatly influences our way of life. It is a fact that many university students are still uncertain about the career path they should follow. I believe this webinar will provide valuable guidance to help orient you towards making informed career choices. As Gambians, we are all aware of the barriers that exist in our country. There are perceptions that job opportunities are not always given to the most capable candidates, and most capable, or they are based on nepotism. So now today we are going to have, I believe, clear view whether is this because of like asymmetry of information, whether we are not having available information of the available jobs, or is it that the reality? So I believe today we'll have clear picture of that. And on that note, I will just like, thank you all. And by the end of the session, I am confident that we will have a clear understanding of how to navigate our career path successfully. On that note, I would like to thank you all for joining and wish you all a productive and insightful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. President, for those wonderful remarks. We are really grateful for your leadership and commitment to the growth of the associations since we started in office. So with that, I said thank you so very much. Now I would like to invite on Mrs. Fatmata Bitey to give us a brief biography of who our guest is tonight. Fatmata, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Abdul Karim. You are saying Mrs. I am Miss, by the way.
Oh, okay. I think the big boys are here, and she said she's Mrs. Okay.
I am Miss. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again on the first webinar of the 8th Executive Council of Gambia Students in India. And today we are discussing on career after graduation. So I will briefly go through the biography of our guest, who is Mr. Kanyi. Muhammed Kanyi is an individual endowed with a great team spirit. He strongly advocates for good governance and access to quality education and growth opportunities for people of all ages. Currently, he is the country director for the Gambia under the International Model Diplomats for Integrated Development. Mr. Kanyi leads volunteers who conduct corporate training in ICT, as well as management and ethical leadership. Mr. Kanyi is a former president of the United States Exchange Program Alumni Network in the Gambia. Mr. Kanyi is the first Gambian who received the Yearly Spirit Award in 2018 at the completion of his leadership training at Regional Leadership Center in Accra, Ghana. He was also the national champion in debate and public speaking 2018, organized by Banjul Open Debate. Mr. Kanyi was also the first prize award. Sorry for that. Mr. Kanyi was also the first prize award winner. Sorry for that.
Are you there, Fatma?
Yeah.
Okay.
A concept he further developed under the guidance of the National Youth Council to what will become the National Leadership Program. On the international scene, he won the Corporate Volunteer Award and Youth Development Award of IMDID International during the Global Youth Diplomacy Conference 2019 in Togo, West Africa. The multi-award winner has extensive knowledge in team building and mentorship. He has conducted several trainings on public speaking and presentation across the country, as well as trained scores of youth leaders or ethical leadership across the country. He is a keen listener and acclaimed individual. As Abdul Karim said, we could not read all his biography. Mr. Kanyi is very supportive when it comes to youth development in the Gambia, and we are honored to have you on this platform today. Thank you. Abdul Karim, back to you.
Thank you so very much. That is a very rich biography of Mr. Kanyi, and we are really, really grateful to have you here. So next on the agenda, we would like to invite the main man to come in. But before you start the discussion, Mr. Kanyi, I will just want you to just come in and greet my audience again before you start the discussion. Mr. Kanyi, the floor is yours only.
Because I am definitely looking forward to learning immensely from the contributions that were coming from the floor, as well as the questions, because from the questions, we definitely would have a point of departure to further. Are we there?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're there.
Okay.
All right, so over to you, Abdul Karim. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Now, next on the agenda, we have the theme for the day and what everybody was waiting for. That is the career after graduation. Mr. Kanyi, when we say career after graduation, what are we trying to talk about here, especially in the context of the Gambia?
Thank you so much, my brother. Basically, when you talk about career after graduation, in the context of education, and obviously as would-be graduates, we are looking at what you expect people to be doing to survive. Yeah, you're looking at what kind of industry or what kind of job they are going to be putting their skills into. Skills that they would have learned as a result of the qualifications that they were undergoing, whether at the bachelor's or master's level. So when we talk about career after graduation, we are looking in short at what you are expected to do upon graduation.
I think that point is very, very clear. That point is very, very clear with regards to career after graduation. But we understand that like this career after graduation comes with a lot of challenges, especially for students like us, the international students. Sometimes we leave our country, we go outside to study and come back. Modulo, can you please? Okay. Sometimes we face challenges with regards to students like us who come to India or other countries for studies, and you realize that we have the opportunity to do some courses that are not available in our country. So upon reaching that country, we do some courses and we learn some skills, either soft skills or hard skills related to that area. But when we go back to our country, we realize that the facilities or the skills we gain outside, we cannot implement it in our country. So as a result, this led to challenges students face with regard to career development as international students. So what are you going to say about those things, especially for us international students that are studying outside and opting to go back upon graduating?
Abdulkarim, that is a very, very important question. And the country we live in plays predominantly a key role in that. That is to say, you have a lot of young people studying all over Africa, in the US, in the UK, in India, in other parts of Asia as well. And most often than not, you have some of these brilliant young minds studying areas that are undertapped in the Republic of the Gambia. And as a result, when they come back home, they tend to find it quite challenging in order to fit into the labor market in this country. This is absolutely true. Now, the point is, how do we overcome it? Because we are looking at it as a barrier. I would want to probably take a pause there, and also considering the theme we have, that is to say, overcoming barriers to success in the Gambia. So it is important that we define what are some of those barriers, or possibly what are some of the barriers that limit the people from exploring their talents when they come back home. Now, some barriers are mindset related. Yeah, mindset is one of the things that actually makes it quite difficult for people to make certain decisions in their lives. For example, I used to know of a gentleman many years ago. He comes from a very intelligent family. When I say intelligent family, I'm talking about people who are always top of their classes, you know, and not only him, but it's like God has gifted his family that level of intelligence. This young man decided to go into welding. He wanted to become a welderman. And back then, it was quite a very challenging decision for him, because most of his family members were definitely not in for anything like that. So there is that stereotyping that, because of our mindset, that if you're actually in the conventional school, you must be out there, you must put on a neck, a tie, you must work in an office, you must do X, Y, Z. Now,
Sorry,
if you happen to be...
Sorry. Samba,
yeah.
Samba, can you please turn off your camera, please? Samba. Mr. Samba, can you please turn off your camera? Okay, Mr. Kanyi, can you please proceed?
So that mindset is actually a problem, because it is one of the barriers to people exploring their own potentials. Now, this young man had a huge trouble with his family, but he persevered, and eventually he actually got what he wanted. And today he's a very comfortable guy, you know. When you talk about it from a financial angle, his business has grown very well over the last, let's say, 15 years. And he's quite financially stable today because he put his mindset to it. He believed he can do it, and he lived by his dreams. Now, another great problem we have, I'll still come back to your question, is inadequate networks. Now, inadequate networks, what does it mean? About 2 years ago, or maybe few years ago, this is somewhere around maybe 2021, right? 2020, 2021. I had an interaction with the then U.S. ambassador to the Gambia, His Excellency Richard Pascal, you know. So it was an award ceremony, and I was one of the people who were to be awarded for conducting a mentorship for young people in this country. So in my one-on-one conversation with him, Ambassador told me something that actually will remain with me for a long time, probably for the rest of my life. And that was to say, he actually got to that position as an ambassador for the United States of America by virtue of the fact that he has had tremendous support from his mentors. How? What does that mean? Basically, he said, you know, if you are on the mentorship, your mentors tend to share knowledge, they tend to share skills, and they also tend to share networks and advice and caution that you would literally not have ever benefited from if you were strictly following the academic trend. So basically, in following the academic trend, you also need that individual who would have probably have preceded you in that profession, who would have preceded you in wisdom, who would have had probably a bigger network than you, to say, you know what, this is challenging at this moment, this is challenging at this moment, but if you want this kind of a career, probably this could be a good starting point for you. So he believed he became an ambassador for the US in a shorter period compared to most of his colleagues who were in the foreign service for the United States of America. That is also a barrier we need to understand. People having inadequate networks. Maybe some of us who are listening to me, if they've already been working in these institutions for the last 5 to 10 years, they would probably tell you that if I had probably gotten the kind of mentorship I needed and coaching, I would have taken a different profession from what I am doing today. Yes, because they lacked that initial inadequate network in terms of coaching and mentorship. Some of the people find themselves doing something today that they literally would not have chosen if they had known better. So that is also considered to be a barrier. Now, another barrier which is very common is the financial constraint. Okay? The financial constraint, you have a brilliant idea in your head. You have the knowledge because you have undergone higher studies in that area. But unfortunately, back home, you are not able to expand on your skills because you do not have the needed capital in order to start the kind of initiative or intervention that you need in the community. That could also have a problem on you expanding on your skills and getting your target. If we still have people who are not muted, it's going to be best that we have our mics on mute.
Aliu, can you please fix your mic?
Right.
Can I continue?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so having that financial challenge, Abdul Karim, could be a very, very, very troubling issue. You have the skills, you have the IQ, knowledge, strong background in it, but unfortunately, you do not have the financial skills or financial support in order to be able to start an intervention by yourself. That could equally be another constraint. Now, having looked at these constraints, whether it is mindset, whether it is inadequate networks, whether it is the financial constraint. That takes us back to your question. What is it that the young people who are studying out there can be able to do back home here when they are in town and they do not have the kind of space that they need in order to expound on their questions? Having given you an idea of what some of the what some of the barriers are, now let us look at the question heads on. One thing, we have reached a time in history when graduates must be looking at themselves as potential job creators and not job seekers. This is where it must start from. For example, someone who has studied computer science at a bachelor's degree, and God so kind to him, he has improved on his skills, coding, for example. He can build websites, for example, and his element of knowledge and expertise in cybersecurity, for example, has been extremely good. Now, coming back home, we know how it works. We have to admit these facts for us to be able to speak realistically and also to be able to diagnose what our problems are as a community and proffer solutions as young people for us to overcome those problems. One of the problems that you are going to be encountering when you come back home is the nepotism when it comes to offering jobs. Yes, you've studied, you've gotten the skills, you're probably the best in your area, but unfortunately you come from a poor home like Kanyi here, and you do not have those kind of connections, you do not have that kind of a network where somebody sits in his office and tells you, send me your transcript before you come back to the Gambia. And probably your job is even secured for you before you arrive in town. Not all of you are going to enjoy that. Let us be realistic. Not all of you are going to enjoy that. So what do? If you come back home and you're not offered that job on a silver plate, what do you do as an individual? That is where I come back to the point, as would-be graduates, we should be looking at the job market and probably thinking around, what is it that I can do in order to be able to create an employment for myself? Let me give you an example of a young man I have met here a couple of years ago, and he's a very brilliant young man. This guy has been one of my mentors, somebody that I look up to all the time. And sadly enough, he would always call me the coach. I'm really sorry to bring this up, Osman Fall. If you're not here, then that's fine. And Osman is somebody that I admire. I look up to him very much. He's one of the most industrious young persons that I have interacted with in this country. Osman teaches ICT at Nusrat, and he's got a business alongside called skills.gm. You can actually search for that, skills.gm, where he puts up the profiles of people, especially those in TVET, and the skills that they embody, so that it becomes a platform where potential employers could be able to tap on their skills, or people who would need their contracts could be able to call upon them. Over the last probably 7 to 10 years, Osman had developed over 40 to 50, let's say 40 to 50 websites for institutions across this country. Now, if you were to look at the potential revenue of that over the last decade, my brother, say for example, if he actually developed just about 40 websites, for example, and each website would pay, let's say, about $20,000. That is almost $800,000. That is close to $1 million for developing 40 websites, maybe over a period of 7 years, for example. Okay, just say over a period of 7 years, he would have actually earned himself about $800,000. Now, if 7 by 12 gives you something like 84, if you divide that amount by 84, that will give you somewhere around 9 years, 5 months. Yeah, are we together?
Yes, yes, yes.
That will give you 9 years, 5 months for somebody who would have been consistently paid $9,500 every month in this country. Now, come to think of it, on average, how many Gambians are receiving $9,500 on monthly basis? How many Gambians are receiving that? But having created that sense of employment for himself, let us say he has been able to do that over the period of 9 years, or let's say 7 years, earning up to $800,000. If you multiply, or if you divide that by the number of months that spans 7 years, that's going to be about 84, right? If I'm correct, yeah? 7 times 12 is going to be somewhere around 84. Now, if you divide that by 800,000, you're going to be getting about $9,500. Meanwhile, the question is, how many young people are actually earning $9,500 in institutions? What are our police being paid? What are the people in the military being paid? What are some of the people, doing some menial jobs in offices being paid? Whether it's messengers or cleaners or whatever, because there is absolutely nothing like minimum wage in this country, people are being abused financially. Now, think of this young man who would be able to create this employment for himself. That is huge. Now, that's just one example. Another example
So I have
of
a
a
question.
young
I have a
man.
question, please. I have a question.
Okay.
Can you explain what do you mean by minimum wage?
Mr. Mbalo, can you please wait for question and answer sessions? You can bring in your questions. Mr. Kanyi, can you please proceed?
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. So let us look at that as one example. Then the second example, I have met a young man who actually teaches people coding. And most of us who were going to him were from the University of the Gambia doing computer science and IS. And also some of the people who were interested in coding, and they were not at the university. In the class, we had people who actually were from high schools, across the country, and people who were passionate about coding. We had people like that. Now, he was actually charging like $15,000 for each level. $15,000, and each level would take us about 4 months of intensive study, coding, and we were meeting like twice or 3 times in a week. Now, if he runs a class for 4 months, and 4 months is $15,000 each candidate, my brothers, I am talking to you about $300,000 that he was earning for 4 months. Having how many candidates? Just 20 candidates, each candidate paying $15,000. Think about that. $300,000. Yeah? $300,000 in 4 months. If you divide that by 4, that means his salary would be $75,000 per month. How many Gambians are earning $75,000 per month? Now you would say I'm making a little bit of sense, yeah? I am telling you this because there is money in this country. There is money when we can leverage on the skills that we have learned over the years as young graduates, whether it's bachelor's or whether it's master's. So the first challenge we must have at the back of our mind is, what kind of employment can I create for myself when I go back home? Because the government will not always have it for you on a silver plate. That is the first challenge. Where we have an issue also is to look at what kind of areas we are venturing into as young people. What kind of areas are we studying? Now think of it in this country. We have more general practitioners among our doctors than any other thing. Among our medical doctors, we have more general practitioners than any other thing. The Gambia has very few neurosurgeons. I used to know of only one. I am not sure how many people have been added to that. Now I cannot say. These are things we can all verify. But I used to know of only one neurosurgeon in this country. Come to think of it, it is only Dr. JT at the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital that I know of as a specialist in heart. What they call a cardiologist. That is the only person that I know. Also, if you look at it in how many people, as to how many people are graduating from the University of the Gambia in the medical field from the School of Medicine and Allied Health Sciences as nurses, most of them, a greater percentage of them are bedside nurses. Now, how many of those people are concentrating on areas to become anesthetic nurses, for example? Now, anesthesia is that branch of it who are going to deal with the patients, probably inject them so that I don't know the medical term for it, but they go to sleep, yeah, and then the surgery is performed on them, and they will be responsible for also waking them up after the surgery. Now, you have a greater percentage of them. This may not be the right statistics, but say if about 90% of our graduates from the University of the Gambia, School of Medicine and Allied Sciences, if they are medical doctors, let's say, for example, are general practitioners, and let us say, for example, 90% of them, of the nurses, are going to be bedside nurses. When are we going to have the required number of cardiologists in this country? When are we going to have the required number of neurosurgeons in this country? When are we going to have the required number of nephrologists in this country? People who are experts in kidney, where there is going to be an operation and so on and so forth. Now, we have a lot of Gambians who are suffering from kidney problems, kidney failure in this country. You must have seen as students in India, almost every few months, you will have people asking for support because they want to transport or get their patients out of this country, specifically to Turkey and India, because where treatment is cheaper, because they have kidney problems. You go to dialysis at the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, to get dialysis is also a huge problem. Now, and they may not also offer the cost for it. So the problem here also goes beyond what the government can also provide for you. But the question is also, what kind of professions are we studying for our bachelors and our masters that will make us stand out when we come back to the country? Give yourself an example. If you are a medical student and you only have one cardiologist in the whole of this country, in the person of Dr. JT that I know of, what do you think is going to happen if you come back home and you are a cardiologist, qualified cardiologist from wherever you would have studied? We would expect that your chances of getting a job are going to be 99.9%. That is the reality. Think of a nephrologist, for example, getting that as a medical practitioner as your area of concentration. Think of becoming an anesthetic nurse, for example, as their special concentration. Then we say, yeah, your chances of employment could be increased compared to somebody who actually studies something where you have thousands and probably tens of thousands of graduates of that area from the University of the Gambia. These are some of the things we should also be asking our questions when we make decisions as to what kind of courses we want to take, especially after our bachelor's degrees. My focus and my advice has always been, in order to increase your chances of availability or employability or marketability in this country, you may probably take a profession, or you may probably take one lane for your bachelor's degree. But when it comes to your master's degree, you may want to do something different. Even whereas there is going to be that interrelation between your bachelor and your master's, but you may want to do something a bit different so that you increase your chances of employability. And why is that? Because when you have a job opening being advertised and your special focus of on your BSc, for example, is related to the job, you have a chance. If your focus on masters is related to the job, you have a chance. That is a ratio of 2:1 compared to somebody who's got only one area that he focused on throughout his studies. What he did, for example, computer science at bachelor's degree is what he did at master's level. And he has not gotten a special strength in, for example, areas such as data science and data analysis and so on. Then it becomes a problem because he is going to be limited. Yeah, he's going to be limited. Now, how do you actually overcome that? Probably you want to look at one area, but even if it is going to be your master's degree, what is the specialized area that you also want to concentrate on? Like in the case of a medical personnel who study, for example, bachelor's and masters, you are in somewhere else different from this country. You want to focus on something like becoming a cardiologist, becoming a nephrologist, becoming an anesthetic nurse. So we believe your chances are going to be increased compared to somebody who just focused on one area. So I hope this has answered your question partly. And if you need further clarification on it, we can also look at it.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Kanyi, for those wonderful answers. I think my question is clearly answered, but I will just allow my co-host to just come in. Probably she has something to say. Fatmata, do you have anything to ask Mr. Kanyi?
Yes, Abdurrahman.
Okay, proceed now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanyi. That was a great insight on the topic. I want to ask, what skills do you believe are most important for recent graduates to develop before entering the workforce?
That is another brilliant question. And it technically depends on what area this individual would have studied. Yeah? Because different areas would definitely have different job opportunities that somebody can tap on. So, for example, for someone who has studied agriculture at BSc and probably looking at somewhere, probably looking at that area in master's degree. Now, for such an individual coming back home, there are some additional skills he would want to have. I'm not looking at the soft skills here. I'm talking about things that you need practically in order to be able to make a living for yourself. Yeah. Now, if you come down to agriculture, for example, agriculture, let's look at one example. Fish farming, for example. Fish farming is an industry that is untapped in this country. Untapped industry in this country. Yeah. Now, it's been a couple of weeks now. It's been a couple of weeks that women who have been going to the markets complain bitterly about the prices of fish in the market. Reason being very simple. A lot of fish that is caught from the ocean, from the rivers, are being taken to Senegal, being taken to China and other parts of the world. You know, the fishing agreement between the European Union and the government of the Gambia, whether it's the fishing agreement between the Chinese and the government of the Gambia, whether it is the Senegalese coming to fish in our waters, you know, all these things are issues that are contributing to the lack of adequate fish supplies in our market. So if you're coming back to this country and you've studied something that is related to agriculture, is this an area that you have been thinking of to explore? You ask yourself, is this an area in agriculture that I have been thinking of exploring? Now, think of this river Gambia, you know, where if you go around somewhere around the CRRN, you have a lot of fresh water, untapped fresh water, irrigation farming. You know, last week I traveled to Basse and I was with another guy. So when we got to CRR, he comes from CRR, and he told me that the government of the Gambia has given a huge land to somebody who he described as an Indian investor in the country. They gave him a huge land for a banana plantation. Now, what the guy did, what he told me, he laid the pipes in the farmland and then had them taking the water directly from the river Gambia. And then he put up a treatment plant so that what goes to the bananas becomes fresh water. So that means he is actually watering his bananas directly from the river Gambia of a treatment plant. According to this guy who narrated the investors' issues to me, he said he has gone into a 50 years lease with the government of the Gambia, whatever that means. I mean, think about 50 years. With such kind of huge banana plantation, the possibilities are very high that within the first 3-4 years, he would probably break even. He would probably break even. And that means for the next 40 years, everything he will be getting, a greater percentage of it is going to be profit. Sadly enough, probably 70% of that wealth is going to be taken out of this country. So the question is, for our young agriculturists who are being trained in this country and also outside this country, what are our business community or what are our businessmen doing in order to be able to tap from the skills that they are coming home with? What is the government of the Gambia thinking of in order to have investments like that? Where you have banana plantations in CRR, you will have similar plantations of something else in URR, you will have similar plantations of something else in LRR. What are we thinking of in that lane? So that could be a question and a challenge, both to would-be graduates and as well as people who can provide the financial muscles for such kind of investments in this country. And it could also be a challenge for the government of the Gambia to be thinking in that lane. If you think of the rice production that Jar Oil is doing to support, they said is a loan or a grant that has been provided to the Republic of the Gambia through the government, that is a wonderful initiative for this country. Now, if we have like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of similar interventions across this country, then we are going to be sure that in about a decade to come, there is going to be food self-sufficiency, especially in rice production. What are young graduates thinking of in terms of such kind of initiatives? It does not have to be you alone, because certain kind of interventions are not things that you can do alone. But probably you want to tap on the skills of all the people who would have studied areas similar to what you have done. Come on, buy new skills, buy new expertise, become a team, register a business, get support from possible funding agencies, or partner with people who can provide the financial support and make them shareholders in your business. With your expertise and your focus, you will be able to thrive in the market. Let us think like this as young people. Because I am saying this, we need to become employers and not people who are going to be job seekers for the rest of our lives. Now, if you're coming back home, are you thinking like this? Or have you already started your transcripts to the Ministry of Agriculture looking for a job? It's going to be difficult if you are not connected down in those ministries. It's going to be difficult. So now it is not only a matter of asking yourself, what can the government do for me? But it is a point, it is a time that you also have to asking yourself, what is it when it comes to job creation that I can do on a small scale that I think in the next 10 years I am going to thrive in? We need to start asking ourselves these questions. I met a young man here in this country who quit his job. He quit his job, he's a medical practitioner, in order to be able to start something on his own. And one day I had a conversation with him. He told me, Kanyi, you know what? I needed to quit my job at the time, because when you are broke, that is the time you start thinking properly. And today, what he is earning, the government, what he earns every month, the government of the Gambia would not be able to pay him in 1 year. I am telling you. What he earns every month, Gambia government, as a medical practitioner, cannot pay him that money for 1 year. He was able to do it because he started thinking outside the box. So there are skills we know, such as soft skills. Soft skills, you also need them. Your ability to communicate, your ability to look around you and offer solutions to the problems. Your abilities to work on your time management, your negotiation skills, especially if you are going to pitch a business idea to a would-be investor. Say you have studied bachelor's, master's in an area like this, you want to do XYZ, and you need a potential partner who is going to provide the financial muscles. How do you actually pitch your idea to this individual? Your ability to work in a team, your creativity. These are equally soft skills that you need in addition to the hard skills that we are all learning in schools, such as your software development, your degrees and certifications you are going through, hard skills on artificial intelligence, and so on. But yeah, there are also some skill areas. Something like data science, for example, is quite marketable. Yeah, there are skill areas such as that we need to look at. Still in agriculture, you may want to think about agriculture, for example, agribusiness, for example. In my conversation with someone 2 weeks ago, he told me that most of the hotels in this country are actually importing their vegetables from Senegal. What are Gambians doing about that? When most of the hotels that we have in this country are importing their produce, their vegetables from Senegal. What is the government doing in supporting the young people to be able to counter that? We have a lot of young people who are involved in poultry farming, but the support that they are receiving financially, whether it is from the state or other investors, is actually very minimal. And that is why they are not able to produce en masse or in large scales for them to be able to, bridge the gap between the amount of eggs that are imported in this country compared to the amount that is produced locally. What are we doing as a community to support those young people? What are the area councils doing about that? Because local governments are supposed to be supporting initiatives such as that in their municipalities or in their localities or under their local government areas. What is the Birkama Area Council doing about that? What is Mansakonko Area Council going to do about that? What is Basse Area Council going to be doing about that? What is NBR going to be doing about that? It is time for the people in those leadership positions also to reach out to such people who are doing fantastically well in their initiatives and support them for that. The supports are not always going to be coming financially, because somebody can say, oh, well, we have done this, we have done this. No, I am not I'm not actually to belittling anybody's contribution to what young people are doing out here in this country. I am saying we can always do better and we can do more. Support is not always going to be financial. Support could equally be mentorship and coaching that you are going to create for these young people. How much effort are you making when you travel out of this country and you see people in poultry farming in other countries and they are doing tremendously well, they are rich? How much effort are you making to connect our young people with such investors across the world? Do you understand what I'm talking about? So you would understand that support is not always financial, but as a youngster, as a young leader, if you travel outside your country and you see people doing similar interventions like the young people in your country, how much effort are you doing in creating a network between your young people and those people out there for them to be able to tap on their skills and expertise? These are some of the things we need to be thinking of. I hope that answers your question.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Kanyi. Back to you, Abdurrahman.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kanyi, for those wonderful remarks. Mr. Kanyi, but I will not allow you to go before. I want to give the floor to the audience to start asking their questions, but I would like to ask you this question before I give them the chance. Because you have talked about the health sector in terms of the job market and the agricultural sector. But what are you going to say about for those in the engineering sector? What do you think are some of the courses in the engineering sector that people in the Gambia or students are not putting into consideration, and you think it is a very good area for people to look into in the Gambia?
That is another brilliant question. And, I actually have it under skills in demand. I've taken note of it. I was going to speak about it before the end of the day. But a brilliant question. Now, think of this. Who are actually responsible for our road networks? It's all foreigners. Yeah. We have major interventions, road constructions all over this country, but it's been taken up care of by foreign companies. What are we doing about that? How many experts are we having when it comes to engineering, for example, related to road construction? That's a problem. That is a huge problem. And that is a gold mine. That is a gold mine. Road construction projects will cost millions of dollars. Or we say millions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars. What are we doing about that? So that is an untapped area we need to look at. And because engineering is so vast, I am not sure exactly what you're looking at, but also think about urbanization. Yeah, urban planning. It's a hot cake. People are learning, people are studying at higher levels. How many urban planners do we have in this country? Who's gotten the expertise, and the experience that is needed in order to become the kind of force that we're looking at making a difference in our urban planning in this country? Now, think of how land is sold in this country. Think of the role that the physical planning of this country could probably have provided, especially to the alcalos when it comes to selling land and all that. Even for you to have proper road networks in this country is a problem, my brother, because of how land is being sold in this country, rampantly, randomly. So there are no proper urban planning in this country. Where are the engineers that could be experts in that area? And yes, what I feel people are doing better in, especially on that branch of engineering, is software engineering. The University of the Gambia is producing a lot of graduates from computer science. And a lot of those people are doing well in the tech industry. Yeah, we have some of the companies under the ICT ecosystem who are doing very well in this country. But are they getting the kind of support that they also need? That is another question. For example, what is it? Why on earth would the Gambia government, for example, hire a foreign company to do our ID cards when you have software engineers in this country who are tried and tested? Are we not going to be able to do our own biometric passports in this country in this age when we have hundreds of young students who are graduating with bachelor's and master's degree in computer science and they are Gambians? We have a lot of tech institutions, tech companies who are cropping up, startups who are doing extremely well in software engineering in this country. How long are we going to stay as a country giving such contracts which can earn our people hundreds of millions of dollars and the money will stay in this country and develop this country? Why are we always giving it to foreign companies and money is being flown out of this country every day? We need to think about these things. So that is why it is important that STEM, which is actually a dream area, and today, alhamdulillah, it is being highly supported by the Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Per Gomez, who is Professor Per Gomez, who is doing tremendously well in supporting TVET in this country. So engineering, especially at the University of Science and Technology, you said, and at GTTI is actually the pride of this country, because in few years to come, in the next 10 years, we definitely want to be able to take care of a lot of things in this country that are going to be related to engineering and not depending on foreign companies. And yes, we can do it because we have the intelligence in this country. Gambians are a special breed of humanity. Gambians are very intelligent people. We can be very interesting at times, especially as politicians. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so very much, Mr. Kanyi. I think you have said it all. From the comment sections, I was going through them. I've seen that people are really, really interested in this topic. Now, I've seen some of you guys have already drafted your questions in the chat box, but before we go into the question and answer session, I just want to read some few rules and regulations pertaining to the question and answer sessions. Please, if you want to ask questions to Mr. Kanyi, you have to raise your hand by touching the raise hand button. And if you are let in, please, you have to say your name. If you are in India, you have to say your name. You have to say the state you are from, the university, and then you state your question. For the benefit of Mr. Kanyi to know which part of India are you, or are you a student in the Gambia. So on that note, I would like to invite one of you to come and ask. Mr. Ablanjai, can you please come in?
Thank you very much, Mr. Cisse, and thank you to our honorable guest here, Mr. Kanyi. Thank you for those deliberations. Mr. Kanyi, you have mentioned some important keys like acquiring skills after graduation. Okay, my concern here is about how about before graduation? For instance, you would see a student completing a grade 9 going to 12 would have problem in choosing a field to do or an area to specialize. So don't you think policymakers have some issue here to come into play and guide students and guide people, for instance, in definitely choosing the best field for the person to actually know where the area he or she is best in. Because what I realize is most of the senior school will give you a field based on your results. You would go with A's and they give you a science. You have some credits and they give you commerce, and then with pass they do take you to arts. That have been the trend. Many few of us have chosen the field that we wish to. Most of us, the school would tell you have to do this. So don't you think choosing or having I realized that the ministry has a career and career and development unit in the MOPSI office, which is not definitely well explored because you've realized it's very dormant. But I think looking at the TVEC that you've mentioned and the STEM that develop most of the European countries, choosing or deciding this at an early stage would have definitely yield more benefit. For instance, in India here, we've realized that students start coding in their senior school, like C and C++. They've done it in their grade 12s and grade 10s and the likes. Most of us started coding in university. So don't you think people start specializing in the early age than being 9 subjects that are almost all generals and then coming to coding or coming to specialization after definitely graduating? What do you think about that? Thank you.
That is a brilliant question, and thank you so much. That is why, personally, I started this conversation talking about the importance of mentorship and coaching. And I brought you the example of my interaction with the then ambassador of the US to the Gambia, Ambassador Pascal. The relevance of that to the conversation is people from, even from grade 6, I tell you, if you ask me, somebody moving from grade 6 to grade 7, at that very tender age, the parents would have or should have actually understand what is this individual more passionate about. Moving on to from grade 7, grade 8, and grade 9, by the time the person gets to grade 9, the parents would have actually identified what his strength is. Unfortunately, either because a good number of our parents are not educated conventionally and they find it quite challenging in order to be able to spot these skills or special skills in their kids at a very tender age. So that itself is a limitation. Now, what is the solution to that? We need to be having people who are going to volunteer their time. Like you, who has gone through first degree, for example, in your second degree, someone in your family from grade 7, grade 6, grade 8, you will be engaging them more often now, asking them questions related to what they want to do, what they want to become, what they want to do, and asking them what they are more passionate about, and also looking at what is feasible in our context as a country. Then you coach them to becoming the best versions of themselves in that area. So that is one. Another solution is having MOPSI to have career guidance and counseling units in all senior secondary schools, because most of the time we make our selection mostly from grade 9 going to grade 10. You do science, you do commerce, you do arts. Now, at that level, it is important that all senior secondary schools would have that. I am not sure whether that is what is happening because you have said they have a unit at MOPSI, which I believe. But then at tertiary institution, I work for GAMTEL at GTMI, and I know it is a requirement. Institutions are under NACA, the Accreditation and Quality Assurance Authority. So NACA, it is a requirement that all tertiary institutions have what you call career guidance and counseling unit. Yeah, they have that. And so that is quite important in order to be able to shape the kind of people that we want in our society. I can tell you for free, most of the people I have told you here in the beginning that you probably are doing something today as a profession, which you would not have literally done some 10 years ago if you had had that kind of career guidance and counseling. And that is the reality. Now, it is with career guidance and counseling that you can actually mold somebody from what you consider to be nothing into something great. I have personally interacted with someone who actually finishing school, he got no job. So he went on to enroll as a security officer. And alhamdulillah, with time, he became a security officer for one of the parastatals in this country, serving as a security officer for several years. Then he did some, assessments here and there, makeup exams, until he got entry into the University of the Gambia. He finished his first degree. Today, I think a couple of months ago when we spoke, he was already on his thesis for his master's degree. Now think about it. He started as a security officer, but he got the kind of motivation, the kind of encouragement that he needed. And today he has completed his master's degree. I also know of a security officer in this country who was working at the airport. Today he has finished his first degree and finished his master's degree. And he is one of the individuals that I personally look up to because of his level of intelligence. It's like out of this space because he got the kind of encouragement that he needed in order to succeed. Now, if we have those kinds of units at school levels, and they are not just there as units to be created because it is required by policy to create them, but we have people who are employed and they are experts in the area to actually coach our young people. It is my conviction. It is my conviction that our people are going to do better when it comes to career choices. How many people are going to the University of the Gambia? I want to become a nurse. I want to become a nurse. I want to become a nurse. But beyond the first 4 years of your degree, probably they have not made up their minds as to what area they want to specialize on. Engage most of them. I said probably about 90% of them, and I said this is not any statistics you can quote me on, but because of what I have seen and the people that I have interacted with, I am saying probably about 90% of them are graduating and becoming bedside nurses. And that is why I threw the challenge. How many of them would have had that kind of mental preparation in order to become anesthetic nurses? How many of our medical doctors who are general practitioners are also focused on becoming cardiologists, nephrologists, urologists, and neurosurgeons and so on and so forth? But I have also said here that Gambians are very intelligent. Among other things, we also lack the financial support, and I have considered that as a barrier to choosing the kind of career we want. Some of those graduating from the medical school after 7 years are so brilliant that if they had the financial muscles and the support, they would have further gone ahead to either Oxford or Harvard or to any other university across the world who are considered to be, research universities or research centers across the world, to becoming the best versions of themselves. But sometimes the lack of financial muscles from families and sometimes the lack of further support from the state makes it very difficult for most of those people to actually support or explore the best versions of themselves. So yes, I agree with your statement that it is absolutely necessary that we have a lot of career guidance and counseling centers across schools, from junior secondary schools to senior secondary schools, so that what we look forward to in the next couple of years, we could actually have that in the young people of this country. I definitely endorse your statement, and I consider it as a wonderful contribution to this topic. Thank you so much.
I think, Mr. Ablanja, your question is being answered. But Mr. Kanyi, I was told that Jarankas are very smart, but they are not good at summarizing, because we have about we have about
I
9
am a
people.
teacher as well.
Oh, okay. Someone just said like Jarankas are smart, but they are not good at summarizing.
Yeah, you got that. You got it right.
So we have a lot of questions here, but right now I would like to call on Bakari Ejame to ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, my fellow students. My name is Bakari Ejame, studying in India. I came in India since 2019. I did my first degree, mechanical engineering. Now I'm pursuing my double masters, Chandigarh University and Rayat Bayer University. The first master's degree is the electrical engineering specialization in renewable energy. The second master's degree is thermal engineering specialization in energy engineering. Mr. Kanyi, thank you for having you on this floor today. I'm very excited through your speech and well experience. I have a question here to put across with my fellow students here. Life after career graduations, it has so many significant definition here. Life after graduations can be started since at the diploma levels, in the sense that if you have a sense of directions where you want to achieve at your end of your professional skills. As you rightly mentioned here, it has so many stages here. My question here is, life after graduations, what is going to serve you, or what is going to trade you to fit in the market sector? And the second question here is, barrier when it comes to barrier, it has so many meaningful development in the sense that
Mr.
force
Jame, please, can we make it one by one to make the guests to understand the questions? Can you make it one by one, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just ask the first question and allow him to answer it, and then you can ask the second one.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
My second question is the mindset. Mindset is one of the most important things for as a human beings before you graduate is very important. It leads you to so many directions. So what are the mindsets here? For example, as a Gambians, because mindset we have here at the place here, going to overseas studies, when I came back, I should have a white collar job. What do you think you can put it across to millions of students who are studying in outside of the country?
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much. Let me start with your second question on the mindset. You know, we have a problem thinking that you graduate and you must just go in there and work in an office. That is a terrible mindset. And if you are from Newmi entertaining that kind of a thing in you, you better start dropping that. We have talked about a gentleman who comes from a very intelligent family taking up welding as his profession. And I told you, he is actually thriving very, very well financially. He's doing wonderfully well in this country. That's going to be a clear example of when you as an individual, you are able to get the right mindset for yourself. Because that stereotyping from the society is always going to be there. Now, I also give a series of examples. Someone who studied agriculture may want to venture into fish farming because there is a shortage of fish in this country, especially in our markets. That's why the prices skyrocket. And we've actually related this to the fishing agreement between the EU and the government of the Gambia, between the Chinese, between Gambia and Senegal, and so on. And a lot of fish is actually taken out of this country. As young people, what are we thinking about when it comes to that? So that mindset primarily has to start with yourself. It has to start with you. It is not going to be something that the society is going to put in you. It is something that we have put in ourselves, or society has embedded in us. So it has to be, the change has to start from us. Once you are able to overcome that, the chances are high that you're going to create another source of employment for yourself. Now, let me give you this example. It is said that you cannot become rich being a salary earner. Yeah? Show me a salary earner who is rich. I will tell you that 99% of them are all thieves, especially in the context of the Gambia. For somebody who is paid less than $20,000, he works for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Less than $20,000 is his salary, and he has a family, and he travels. He has a car to fuel every other day. He has kids that who are going to school. How much money is he left with? But working for the government or working for a parastatal or an institution, in 5 years, you see him building a story building. Meanwhile, he has no other job than serving in an office or working in an office. And he tells you, I'm able to build a story building. How realistic can that be? So that is why I'm saying 99% of them are going to be thieves. So that answers your question to say the mindset has to start with us. Now, as to your first question, what is it that you can do if you graduate? We have also talked about this extensively. It depends on what field you are studying. I have given an example of somebody who actually runs study classes for people who are interested in software engineering. And I told you he runs it like a kind of an academy where each candidate pays $15,000 for one level, and a level would be just 4 months. Now, if he registered 20 students, that means he earns $300,000 for the 4 months period. Now, divide that by 4 months, that means his salary is $75,000, and that is self-employment. So from that $75,000, if he occupies a space that he is renting, that is where he is going to pay his rent, maybe $10,000 per month, and then he takes care of the fuel for his car. At least in the worst case scenario, his expenses on cash power may and then the expenses on the rent may not be more than $25,000. That means every month he is making $50,000 as a bonus. Now, that is a possible kind of employment that you can create for yourself. Think about the fish farming we talked about if you're studying agriculture. Now, if you are a mechanical engineer, for example, that is also an area in this country where, where you can claim it's still untapped. And that is something that you can look at. The environment, the science of environment that you are studying currently. How many experts of that area do we have in this country? We now have the Minister of Environment. So you can fit in those things, but you also have to be thinking of as a potential graduate, what is it in my area? Because I am not into all these areas. You are going to look at what potential jobs exist in your area that you think you can probably start creating for yourself, even before you think of an employment that is going to come from the government of the Gambia. So I believe that is going to answer your question, because it will depend generally on what field of study you're asking me. So in technology, I've talked about it, whether somebody is going to concentrate on becoming a website developer or a software engineer as into coding and so on, whether you're going to create that kind of a tech industry for yourself and probably, offer solutions to businesses like banks that will need some app development. Like, today, even shops, even beauty shops, supermarkets, mini markets, they all need app developers to be able to come up with softwares or apps for their businesses where they can enter their sales on daily basis, and then they are going to use that in order to be able to curb down the number of stealing that happens in their businesses. So these are industries that are very rich and people can definitely tap on. We've talked about engineering, construction engineering, for example, in this country. Construction engineering, with certification, I mean. Not like I have been a laborer and then I am a mason now. No, but with proper certification. That probably would create a market for yourself, not only in the Gambia, but you can also be able to penetrate the Senegalese market, penetrate the market in Guinea-Bissau. We do not have to limit our skills to the Gambia because we have a very limited market. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you. They said I must be summarizing now.
Thank you very
I
much,
hope
Mr.
I've
Kanyi.
met that requirement. Thank you.
Mr. Bakari, I think that have answered your questions. Since we
Very
are
much.
working
Thank you, sir.
against
Thank you so
time,
much.
I think we will just take 2 or 3 more and then we will summarize everything because it's a bit late here in India as well. So can we have Olimatu Mane to come, please, because your hand was raised a long time ago. Olimatu, are you available? If Olimatu is not there, can we have Mr. Wise, please?
Yeah, thank you so very much, Abdul Karim. And thank you so very much, Mr. Kanyi. I only have one question here. And then my question is, Mr. Kanyi, you have talked about investment, and I believe is the best way out. But don't you think the size of the population in the Gambia is stopping your investors from investing in their own country? So how do we go about that? The population size in the Gambia. Thank you so very much, Abdul and Mr. Kanyi.
So before you go, what area of investment are you talking about? Can we be specific?
Yes, I'm talking about real estate investments.
Real estate investment.
Yes.
Okay. So your focus is on real estate investment. What do you think is the problem? Can you reframe the question in relation to real estate investment?
Yes, what I'm saying actually is about the population size. For example, Gambia, a country of 2.5 million. So even if you have a real estate company, like you build houses for people, so you have limited number of people that will be ready to purchase those lands. So imagine as a young investor like me, let's say I have only 3 individuals that I believe that whenever I build, they are going to buy a land from me. Do you think that I'll be willing to establish that company? Yes, that's my question actually.
Okay. So you have different facets into that, because maybe your properties are not going to be land that you're going to build and sell, because that's one component of it. There is also the component of renting out spaces. Some of the spaces could belong to you. Some of the spaces you're going to get from people and actually rent it out. But you are going to be responsible for the maintenance of the place and all that, making it look decent for a good living. That's another thing. You can be connecting people to guest houses, rooms, and all that, and you get your commission from it. That is another thing. Now, that is something that is always continuous. I think it generally depends on the financial muscles, which we have also looked at as a constraint, as a barrier. Because, my brother, to be very honest with you, what is happening in the urban area today is not going to spur the development of this country. Almost all major real investments or real estate investments are concentrated within the urban area. Thank God now that people are going beyond Brikama. There are estate agencies going all the way to Faraba, to Pirang, and even beyond that, Basori, and so on and so forth. That is an excellent move. Now, if you were someone today who's got a lot of money, good money, I mean, and you go to a place like Faraba, where you get a land cheap and you're able to put up a decent structure, like say a 2-bedroom apartment, 3-bedroom apartment, and you are selling them at a price that is also affordable to an average Gambian on mortgage, I am telling you that people are going to buy it. People are going to buy it. What is happening now, you may look at it as terrible, but think of someone selling a plot of land or a built house like $5 million, yeah, $4 million. On average, how many Gambians can afford that on mortgage? $4 million. $5 million. On average, how many Gambians can afford that? Now, I understand that there are factors that influence that, such as the price of land and being at prime locations and so on. That is why, if you're going into that kind of investment, I will encourage you to go into the hinterland where you could probably get land at a cheaper price. Now, despite the cost of building materials, for the fact that most of them we don't have in this country, so you import them. And that is also going to heighten the price. But if you're actually able to knock off a good percentage of it from the price or the cost of the land, at least you are going to be able to sell your product at a much cheaper price compared to somebody who got a piece of land for $1 million. And what he is going to put up on the structure is going to be about $2 million, $3 million. You cannot expect him to sell his product for anything that is going to be less than $3.5 million. But if you go to the provinces where you could probably get a land for $75,000, $100,000, obviously think of it. If you get the land for $75,000, $100,000, and you are able to put in about $1 million to build a 2-bedroom apartment, at least a modest one, that is going to be about $1,100,000, building and the cost. At least even if you sell it for 1.5 million, you would get an average Gambian to say, yes, I can commit myself to this. And then I create some bit of employment opportunities for myself, and I should be able to finance it. So it depends on what we are looking at in the industry we have found ourselves in. That matters a lot. And yes, you will need coaching from people who have been there before you, people like Sol Fraser. Thank you so much.
Mr. Wise Cham, I think that has answered your question. And now I will take just 2 more and we will wrap up for today. But Mr. Kanyi, can you please provide your email? Because the hands I am seeing, I believe some of them will want to talk to you later. So, and all the questions cannot be answered here. So if you can provide us with your email through which they can reach out to you after this webinar, we will really appreciate it.
Okay, if Khadija is online, Khadija was the lady who was contacting me on your behalf, Khadija Jallo.
Okay.
If she's online, I am around, Mr. Kanyi.
Yes, Khadija has my email, so she can share it with the rest. That's okay.
Okay. Now can we have Aminata Low to ask her question, please?
Boy, Mr. Moderator, maybe skip the mall and me command the boy.
So ma worry.
Okay, can I yap the
Abdul Karim, if we can summarize it a little bit, that would be very, very helpful.
Yeah. Aminata, can you come in, please?
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Mr. Kanyi, thank you so much for the speech. And my name is Aminata Lou. I am a final year student studying pharmacy at Lovely Professional University in Punjab. And I have a question. My question is, what will you advise to those individuals that wants to continue to do their masters? Because most companies now ask for working experience, at least 1 year or 2. What advice will you give to those people that wants to do masters?
My dearest sister, it is said that opportunity knocks at once. Yeah, I bet, to be honest, people are asking for how do you call it, job experience. Yeah, it is important. But if you're out of this country and you finished your first degree, your bachelor's, and you happen to have very good results, and you have the opportunity of getting another scholarship to continue with your master's, if you ask me individually, I will tell you, go ahead with your master's day before you come back to this country. Because you know what? People with bachelor's degree in the areas in this country, in several areas in this country, right? So if you are a bachelor's degree holder and then you're coming back to a society that has 100,000, that has graduated less than 10,000 bachelor degree holders in the same area like you. Meanwhile, you have a very constricted job market. then for you to be able to shine, it's going to be a challenge for you. If you do not have that opportunity, there is no problem. Come back home, and like we said, think of also creating some sort of employment for yourself at the very beginning, whether it is going to be some sort of tutorials. Hey, when you come back home, I'll tell you one thing. You know what? Don't joke with skills. Don't come back home in this country and you think Fisabilillah will always get you on your feet. No, it's never going to get you on your feet. When you create study classes for people, tutorials for people, let them pay for it. It is important that they do. Because when they pay for it, they make sure that they attend those sessions and they put value to it. Yeah? And then you make something out of it is important. Otherwise, you cannot be spending all your life telling people this is how you should do XYZ, training people to becoming the best versions of themselves. And some of those people are not even valuing that time you are giving them. Because I have personally had practical experiences in that, which we are not going to for today. It's already late. But that is what I am telling you. If you have an opportunity to go for your master's, because you have finished your first degree and you have very good scores, I will tell you, go for it. The experiences will come later. That is my take. If, on the other hand, you do not have that opportunity, after finishing your first degree, there is no opportunity for you to move on with your master's, come back home with pride and think of doing something for this country. If you are in the tech system, we know the ecosystem is more friendly now in technology, especially in software engineering, than it was many years ago. So that is something you can strive in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanyi. Now to the final two questions, and we are going to give the closing remarks. I would like to invite Mr. President. I think our president have a question. Mr. Mo, you can come in.
Yes, my boss.
Abdurrahman.
Yes, Lamin, I'm coming. Don't worry, I'm coming.
No, you are very unfair. I'm all the way in Russia. My hand has been up.
Okay.
All the way
now,
since
Mr.
the beginning.
Mr. President.
Let Mr. President wait.
Lamin, you can come in.
Good.
Okay, Mr.
My brother Kanyi knows who is speaking. Kanyi, I've been listening to you since the beginning of this seminar, and I'm really impressed. And you have hit the nail on the head. And the honest thing about your speech is that you have spoken the truth, and you have exactly said how it's supposed to be said. It is time that we just let these things go by just massaging the truth and not letting people what is happening in our country. And before I move forward, it's Lamin Sane. Most of you knows me, governor. Currently pursuing my master's degree in Russia, international diplomacy and foreign relations. It is a pleasure to be here. Again, my honorable boss, Kanyi, I'm glad to be here with you. It is something that I was looking forward to since the beginning of this seminar was announced. I told my people, I told Sajo Ekejaju that anytime it's about to start, you let me know. Because it is an area that I want to speak about and I want to add my voice onto. I don't want to ask Kanye any question because he said a lot of things and he has even mentioned a lot of things that he should not even mention. But because he is a honest guy, he is someone who tells the truth and give people the reality on the ground. Especially the last part of what he was just I'm really glad that he mentioned that. So my take on everything is that let's all adhere to what Kanye has said today. Let us stop thinking that we will go back to the Gambia looking for jobs. We should be thinking of being job creators. We should be thinking of how do we help that country. I'm telling you, the reality is there are less opportunities out there for you than the opportunities that you can create for people down there. That is the reality. We, all of us, should be individuals that should be thinking of what can I create for my people back home, not the other way around. Those people, most of them do not have anything for you down there. You should be thinking beyond the box. He mentioned about agricultural sector. Someone talk about the real estate. I have 8 years experience in the real estate industry. I know how it works. It is a good market. It is a place that you can venture into if you have the skills. But one thing is lacking in the Gambia is we as Gambians keep on competing with one another. How many of you are out there in India studying engineering in the same areas? Why do you want to compete with your brother? Give the opportunity to your brother by coming up with teamwork, come up with your ideas, things that you can work together. Can you mention it? I always reference to the sustainable development goal. At the end of the sustainable development goal, the United Nations, the whole world agree that all the 17 or whatever it is cannot work if we do not conclude it with partnership. We have to continue joining together as a team, as Gambians. We push our agendas together. You don't need to compete. You need mentors. You need people that have the ideas like you. Come together, develop that country. It is the only way forward. If you come alone, you are just going to be another figure in the crowd. You are just going to be, as Kanyi said, those thousands of graduates or grasses of graduates with degrees, and that is it. Come together. Come with your idea. Sadio have an idea. Lamin has an idea. We come together. We push it forward as teamwork, because it's not going to work if you want to work alone. I do not want to take most of your time. So on that note, I would like to stop here. Thank you so much for giving me, even though I had to forcefully force my way in.
The governor, thank you, the governor. I give you a commando salute. Thank you so much.
Mr. Sani, I'm so sorry about that, okay? sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, do we still have Mr. President now?
Yeah, I'm here. All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Kanyi, and thank you so very much, Mr. Sisa. Definitely a lot have been discussed, and it is very, very fruitful. Just want to give my little contribution, because I am that individual who is having the mindset that Gambia is still virgin. Virgin in which sense? Virgin in the sense that there are more areas, there are many areas that are untapped right now. Looking at the investments, even if you are not that much educated, there is a way you can make it in the Gambia. So the problem is for us, we are not good at problem solving, because I believe that if you're gonna solve a problem, you cannot make it out. So what is the problem of Gambians? We know that, for example, there will be a problem, but we won't be able to see. But one person will just enter into that sector. The other day, you will see thousands of people coming into that sector, and at the end of the day, that sector will end up dying. So what is the real problem, about us Gambians? Mr. Kanyi?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, you were talking about people competing each other, right?
Yes, and considering also the fact that Gambia is a virgin land and there are many opportunities that are not untapped. Why not each individual concentrating on a particular area, solve that problem, so that we can all make it, rather than looking at the problem that someone is trying to solve and you come and compete that particular individual on that problem too. At the end of the day, that area will become saturated, and none of you will be able to make it at the end of the day.
So I believe in teamwork, and like the real estate investment, for example, you have one small entity here, you have another small entity here, you have another small entity here. This one has probably about 700,000. This one has 500,000. This one has about 300,000. Now that is 1.5 million. The one who has 700,000 probably will not be able to get the kind of land that he needs in a strategic location, because 700,000 will be on the lower side. You go to some places, virgin land is 1.something million, 3 million. If it is going to be a big land that you need to buy and then you cut into plots or demarcate into plots and sell them, then you would probably get the land, just the empty land, for about $5-10 million. Now, let's take a look at this on a smaller scale. You have 700,000. Your brother has 500,000. The other one has 300,000. The one who has 300,000 could approach the 500,000 guy. You know what? This is what I have. Can we probably put our resources together? Then the 700,000 guy comes in. Now, instead of their little chunks, they have a capital of about $1.5 million to start from. You see, if we believe in teamwork, our companies or our institutions will become into what we could call conglomerate. Yeah, then you have people coming together. It's not only their money that they are pulling together, but it is also their intellect that they are pulling together. It is also their time that they are pulling together. it is also additional resources that they are pulling together. So you expect that business to flourish compared to when everybody wants to do your little thing in your little way. So one of the problems that we have generally in this country is for us to be able to coach people into seeing the necessity in in building teams. You know, TEAM, team, it is said that the meaning of it is together everyone achieves more. T for together, E for everyone, A for achieves, M for more. So together everyone achieves more. That means when people come together, pull their resources, their skills, their expertise, everything together, the chances are good that they are going to grow as a team. So that is what I will be looking at as opposed to everyone competing the next person. Yeah. It is unavoidable in business, however, because they said in economics one of the reasons why you could gauge that there is money in a country is when you see banks flourishing everywhere. Now, that kind of competition among the banks, for example, is actually healthy because it makes services available to more people. Now, competition is also healthy in other areas such as telecommunication. When we had Gamcell only in 2001, when Gamcell came into being, you know that a single SIM card used to cost $500 just to buy a SIM card. The millennials may not understand that. Yeah, young as we were, we knew that the SIM card was costing $500 is just one SIM card. When Africell came, that became history. So when there is monopoly, there is also a problem because the consumers suffer in terms of the pricing. But when there is competition in the market, the consumers tend to enjoy a little more. Now, when Africell came, that knocked off the $500 SIM card thingy for Gamcell. And then Comium came by then, and then things were, a lot better. QCell into the market and so on. I am not saying that telecommunication is accessible and it is affordable in this country. No, I am not saying that. Telecommunication is very expensive, and Gambia is one of the most expensive countries when it comes to telecoms. So that has to be very clear. That has to be clear because an institution like Pura that has been established by the act of the parliament and by the Gambia government to actually regulate that sector are not doing their job adequately. We know that these telecoms companies are ripping us of the little earnings that we have. So it could have been better. So in other facets, actually, competition may not be naturally bad, but I would prefer where people, especially us, the young people, can actually pull our resources together and start businesses together, start interventions together, start initiatives together. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Mbu, your question is answered. Now I will just give chance to my co-host to step to me.
Thank you, Abdul Karim. Now we will invite Mr. Fati to ask his question. Mr. Fati, are you there?
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Fatmata. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, Mr. Kanyi. This is Mamadou Fati. We crossed paths in 2020, Better Future Production, when I invited him to Better Future Production to talk about Indeed, that organization that he led. And I founded Success Institute College as well. I'm currently in India, final year student at Mahadis Makandeswa University, pursuing hotel management. Yes, interesting. The very moment I saw the flyer and I saw your name, I understood you are going to do justice to the session. And it's very important that you did just that. And the only thing that I would encourage my fellow Gambians in India and Gambian students from other countries in around the globe is to make best use of this session. You've said a lot of things, and one thing I like about Mr. Kanyi is his honesty and straightforwardness. Even on social media, he always make a difference in his comments. He always try to tag institutions that are responsible for certain issues that have been talked about. So what he said here, he had said these things in many other platforms. But now it is the responsibility of Gambian citizens to implement, to execute some of these things. Our problem nowadays in the country is implementation or executing ideas, executing plans. In as much as we do not execute or implement the ideas or the initiative that people have, it will not take us anywhere. So, students, my fellow students, let us make basis of this. Let us get mentors because we also share a platform at the Yali Network. We are all Yali alumni. I am cohort 15, the Yali Network, Accra, Ghana. So, good to see you, good to have you. And then we thank you very much for that wonderful session. That is all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Commander, salute to you. Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Okay,
so
Farmata, you can
much.
continue.
Now we will have Mbara Chan to ask his question.
And this is the last question, please.
Mbara Chan, are you there?
Yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bara Cham, commonly known as Chama, from the University of Indonesia. I'm pursuing Masters in Marine Science Research Program. I'm in my final semester now. Mr. Kanyi has said a lot of wisdom here. I can say he is a box bed of knowledge. What my question will be, Mr. Kanyi, Gambia is at a devastating stage in terms of employment. Many of us want to go back to Gambia to engage ourselves and to develop the skills, the experience, the research skills we have here. And then my question will be, what are some of the in-depth technical skills that employees or that an employer is seeking from Gambians when they want to focus to develop their skills? Because sometimes when you want to apply for a job, you look at the job requirement, they're requesting for 5 years of work experience in that particular job. Someone who has been studying in India or in Indonesia for his bachelor's and his master's, and he is expected to go back to Gambia and start work. How do you expect that guy to have 5 years of experience in that particular job that he wants to engage himself into? What is your advice and what is your take on that? Thank you.
All right, brother, that is a brilliant question. We have policy problems as well in this country. Yeah, because the fact of the matter is asking for 10 years job experience. Man, if you don't give graduates job, how are they going to get experience? That's going to be a problem. So it's also a very poor way of recruitment. And when I say a very poor way of recruitment, I know for sure tech is my area. I wouldn't speak for all other areas in the same manner. But listen to this very carefully. Some of the tech industries in other parts of the world, whether it is Google, whether it is Facebook, you don't actually tell those people, I have had a master's in computer science and this is my score and that is it. No. You would be given projects probably to work on. When you accomplish your project and it meets a certain standard, then you're offered the job. That means you are offered the job based on the skills and competence you are able to display. And if you ask me, this is the best recruitment policy you can ever come up with. Get your degree, I don't mind. Get the PhD, I don't mind. But you come back because you're going to do a job, you need to exhibit to me these technical skills that you have and that you are endowed with in order to be able to do that job. If we start implementing that as a country, as a community, I am telling you, most of the graduates who are coming from other parts of the world, even from the University of the Gambia, India, Malaysia, other parts, it is the best of them that will be admitted into the system. But if we only depend on show me your paper, and then you look at a transcript, it's A plus A minus A plus A minus A plus A minus. You get that person to walk, and he struggles. He struggles doing the job. Meanwhile, his level of innovation is actually almost non-existent. So what the job has programmed him to do is only what he does. That is a major problem, because that deters the institutions from growing. That deters from institutions from leading innovations and creativity in their workplaces. So to me, I agree with you. It is something that is undone. It is not appropriate, and it is not also giving us the best of employees for the jobs. What I personally believe is some people would need to be put to a test based on the kinds of jobs that they are looking for, that you come down, there is something that is given to you. You prove on the job that you can definitely do this, and the job is offered to you. But if we continue as it used to happen in this country, that even before you graduate, you send your transcript, provisional transcript to your uncle because your uncle works at XYZ, and then a job is secured for you even before you graduate. Man, if we continue to do that, we are going to be missing out on the best of talents in this country. And sadly, to a greater extent, that is still existing in this country, and it makes me very sad. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yeah, that really answered the question. And now we are on to the final agenda for the day, which is the closing remarks. Now I would like to invite Mrs. Khadija to give the closing remarks, and then we close it for today. Khadija, are you available, please?
Yes, my boss. Yes, my boss.
I'm saying my last words after.
No, Mr. Kanyi, I cannot allow you, because the last time someone said, Mr. Kanyi said your last words. You said,
you guys are not fair to me. You guys are not fair to me. I have been raising my hand since 1999.
Okay,
now, you don't allow me.
Okay, come in, please.
Abdul Karim, you have a problem.
Lamin Sane, please come in. Just make it a bit fast.
Governor.
Mr. Kanyi, I think you have to accept all the questions now.
Your mic is not on, Lamin Sane.
Hey, tell him he's muted.
Abdul Karim, I am also in trouble. Abdul Karim, I am in trouble. My battery is at red now. My battery is at red.
Oh, okay. Can you please give a brief concluding remarks then before we give the concluding remarks to my boss? Mr. Kanyi, you can give your concluding remarks.
So basically what I wanted to say is actually to appreciate everybody who actually took their time to log in. When I first logged in, I noticed that about 70 people were already online. Yes, 70 plus people were already online, and I was like, wow, this is going to be a tough moment for me. If I have not been able to live up to your expectations, you can forgive me for that. The intention was to have a very frank conversation with you. That is going to be good for you, for me, and for this country. And then definitely I appreciated the fact that you have asked very pertinent and relevant questions. And I hope I have done the little I could in responding to your questions. If you have also raised up your hand and you have not been choosing to speak on this forum, I apologize on behalf of the organizers to say, please, we hope to meet again, and we will do our best in a better fashion. From Mr. Muhammed Kanyi out to all of you, rest assured of my love and my appreciation to each one of you who has taken time to be with us on this platform. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, Abdul Karim, just sorry, Fatmata, just before
thank you.
I have said your email address in the chat box, so you can reach out to Mr. Muhammed Kanyi through his email address. It is on the chat box. Thank you.
Okay, Fatma, proceed, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kanyi. It's like we cannot exhaust all the questions, but we will say you have given great insight on the topic, and I believe everybody has learned from it. And we are hoping to see you on another webinar, inshallah. Thank you so much. And thank you all, everybody who is present tonight, those who participated, we are really grateful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Khadija, do you have anything to add on before I close this meeting? Khadija?
Yes, thank you very much, Abdul Karim. Quickly, I just want to add one or two things. That is to say, thank you all for joining us today. It was such an interesting discussion. As a lot of things were discussed here, I encourage all of us to be more networking and more creative and focus on our future goals. As young people of the Gambia, I believe together we can learn, grow, and then make a huge difference in our various fields. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to Mr. Kanyi for honoring our invitation and all the participants. I'm saying thank you so much. Your participation has made this webinar a successful one, and we really appreciate it. As our president said, this is our first webinar, and we hope to host many of its kind. I'm saying thank you so much to all the participants from different parts of the countries or the world and different part of India. I'm saying thank you so much, and we hope to see you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Khadija, for those one concluding remarks. And that brings us to the end of the webinar for today. Until we come your way again next time. Bye-bye.